best friend.
Yeah, you really are. You're marrying up, buddy.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know, remember what we talked about in marriage counseling? All that emotional baggage.
Shh, man, they'll hear you.
Don't worry, this thing ain't on. Look, I'm just saying, you got a lot of emotional baggage in this relationship, bringing it in there like this.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, y'all made for each other. Y'all have the rings? Today? No, I think we'll go ahead.
Okay. Do you, Travis Crocker, take Brooke Clemens to be your lawful wedded wife? To have and to hold?
Yeah, of course I'll hold her. Look at her. How about I have her as my wife and she holds some of these bags for me? If she could hold the responsibility for raising the kids and hold the responsibility for making dinner every night, that would be great.
From this day forward?
Wait, what's the return policy?
For better, for worse?
I choose better.
For sickness and in health.
Is she making soup when I get a man cold? That sounds like a sweet deal.
Till death do you part.
Have you seen the way I eat? It won't be that long.
Yeah, I'll do. What? I mean, yeah, I do, yeah. I'll do.
What is this?
Never mind.
Are you really sure? You're so much better.
Hey! Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Do you, Brooke Clemens?
Finally, I found someone to hold all my baggage.
Take this man, this one, to have and to hold.
Hello. How about I hold his wallet and he holds my baggage? Thank you very much. And if he thinks I'm about to just hold a spatula in the kitchen, he's got another thing coming. I'll be holding the TV remote watching my shows while he's outside holding that weed eater. Thank you very much.
From this day forward.
Well, you know, I could trade him in when the newer model comes out. Not a bad idea.
For better, for worse.
Does he really think I'm gonna wait on him hand and foot just because he gets a man cold? You would think he's dying every time he gets a little virus or bug. No, boo-boo. You can fix your own cup of soup. I've got things to do. I gotta go get my nails done. I gotta go see my friends.
And in sickness and in health.
As long as he's healthy enough to carry my baggage.
Until death do you part.
But have you seen the way he eats? That boy loves some Burger King. It won't be that long.
Yes, I do.
Well, again, I'm really not supposed to say this, but you could do so much better than this.
He's not wrong.
Well, if nobody objects to the union of these two, clearly y'all haven't been paying attention. So, I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride. Yeah, I ain't watching this. I got stars to
I gotta tell y'all a little story. As we were getting ready for this, Lily Rose was asking a bunch of questions about seeing Mommy in a wedding dress. And Brooke said, you really should show our old wedding video to Lily Rose. I said, no. Because see, during the original, when we did this for real, I cried. Like, it was just, oh, it's sweet, you cried. Oh no, it was not sweet. It was not cute. It was just like, I got so emotional about it. I'm just like dry heave crying. So this one I feel better about myself not having broken down in front of y'all. But as we begin this morning, and also thanks to our lovely bride and bridesmaid and our pastor this morning. Thank you for that. I told him he looks like a pastor. He looks so nice. Well, maybe I don't know how to follow up with this. Maybe you've been there, where you've come home after a long day. Maybe you've been hard at work at the office. Maybe you've been outside and you've been working out in the heat and you're covered from head to toe in dirt. You've been working out in the yard, pulling up weeds. Maybe you're overloaded because you're taking some kind of class and you're just so full of schoolwork. And you're the kind of tired where you need to rest before you can rest. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Well, you can't come home and go to sleep. You're too tired to go to sleep. You got to unwind before you can go to sleep. You plop down on the couch, and your spouse or one of your children comes forward, and they immediately need something. And what are your first thoughts? You might think, can't they see how tired I am? Don't they know what I did today? Don't they know what I do every day? Maybe you work with the public. Maybe you wait tables. You work a window at the bank. Maybe you're fielding phone calls all day. And you think, I'm too tired from helping people to help these people right now. I'm just too exhausted. I've used up all my energy. It's like we've got this deck of cards, and there's this one card called taxing. And you say, I'm sorry, someone already played the taxing card today. I don't have it for anybody else to play. You'll have to come back tomorrow. Now, you may love your family, and you may regularly carry the weight of their burdens, of their needs upon your shoulders, and love them so dearly. And yet, sometimes we can find it hard to bear each other's burdens. Our family, our friends, our coworkers. Sometimes it can be hard to put the needs of others above our own, especially when we're tired, when we've been taxed. Sometimes, consciously or unconsciously, we want to put our own comfort and desires first. You might say, and kind of inside your head, I'll lift up your burdens later, but right now it's my time. My wife and I have learned with 2 small children that, can you believe, it takes 2 hours to watch a 30-minute TV show? You know why that is? Because you're interrupted every 30 seconds, 2 minutes is the max. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I'm fighting with my sister. I can't find my favorite doll. Daddy, why is your face red? Why do you look so angry? Sometimes you just want peace and quiet for 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. Tell me if you can relate. Have you ever just said, I just want peace and quiet? Just 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. But I have to remember that someday there will be a time when my children don't want to crawl up on the couch with me, lay their head on my chest, and say they love me and show me something that they drew, that these days are precious and they're limited. See, I didn't cry during the wedding. I cried that part. We have to remember that relationships, what have we been saying through the series? Relationships are messy, but they're worth it. There's a great story told in Luke chapter 9, verse 46, where Jesus is walking along the road, and behind him, some of the disciples, are arguing. Jesus is walking down the road, he turns around and says, what are y'all arguing about? And it turns out that a couple of them are arguing over who gets the position of honor. When Jesus brings his kingdom, who gets to sit on the left side and the right side of the throne? And also, the story is told in Mark 10:35. And in that version of the story, James and John just come right out and say it. They say, Master, we want you to do for us whatever we ask, which sounds like a bold request to ask of the Son of God. Hey, we got some. Will you just go ahead and agree to it before we say what it is? It's a bold request. In Matthew 20, we read that at this telling of the story, their mom chimes in, which I'm sorry. I try to put myself in the position of the disciples when I read these stories, but I can't fathom mom showing up to work to ask for a promotion for me. I can't imagine. I just picture if I was one of the disciples, Mom, all of my buddies, the other disciples are watching. You can't say this. I would be the disciple that's like, Mom, drop the camel off down the road and I'll walk. I don't be seen riding the camel with my mom to work. But what's incredible is Jesus' reaction that's recorded here and shortly thereafter. What does he do in that moment, and then what does he do shortly thereafter? Because there's this pattern in the Gospels where Jesus uses a teachable moment, and then sometimes a day or two passes and he'll go back to that moment and say, you remember about the fish, you remember about this incident or that incident, and he drives home the message again in a new and exciting way. So we're going to look at Mark 10, verses 41 through 45 of the Message commentary. We read, and this is inside your notes. When the other 10 heard of this conversation, they lost their tempers with James and John. Jesus got them together to settle things down. You've observed how godless rulers throw their weight around, he said, and when people get a little power, how quickly it goes to their heads. It's not going to be that way with you. Whoever wants to be great must first become a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. That is what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve, not to be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for many who are held hostage. So here we see what Jesus says about it. In a moment we're going to see what he does about it. Because one chapter later, over in Mark, we read that he triumphantly enters Jerusalem on a donkey on what we call Palm Sunday. And what we say when we talked about Palm Sunday a couple weeks ago is that here they are laying down palm branches for Jesus, and in less than a week they're going to crucify him. They're going to march him down that same road, and Jesus knows it. The crowds have gathered around and they're celebrating, they're singing Hosanna, God is saving us. And in less than a week, they're going to march him down that same road, and he's going to be the ultimate sacrifice. And Jesus knows this, but what does he say? He came to give his life up. It's for many, in exchange for many who are held hostage. You see, the disciples are worried about who gets to sit on either side of the throne. Jesus is worried about the mission that he left his throne in heaven for. You see the difference, priority. Then we looked at the night before Jesus' crucifixion, the night we call Maundy Thursday, when he celebrated his last supper with the disciples. He has that last meal with them. And this is fresh off of that lesson on humility. He gave them this lesson of humility when they were arguing going down the road. He has walked in humility. He has ridden down that road that goes towards the cross. And now he has one last meal with his disciples. And in John 13, verse 1, we read, as he washes their feet, that he loves his disciples to the end. He's washing the disciples' feet, and they don't understand what's going on. Because in that culture, if you were rich, you had servants that worked in your household, and you didn't drive from point A to point B. You walked a lot of the distance. So your feet would be covered with dirt. You were wearing sandals. You were walking everywhere you went. So your feet would be covered with dirt. So if you were rich enough to have a servant in your household, they washed people's feet as they came in, washed the dirt off the person's feet. And here Jesus, the Lord of all creation, their master, their savior, their teacher, has stooped low and he's washing their feet. And they don't understand it. So this is beneath Jesus. He shouldn't have to do this. This is a servant's job, not the Son of God. That's not his job. We read that Peter didn't want to let his master stoop so low to wash his feet. But what does Jesus say in verse 7? Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." So Jesus goes on to wash the disciples' feet. And in verse 12, it says, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So this is the model that Jesus set up for us. As one person put it, if you want to step up, step down and become a servant. This is the model for your marriage. This is the model for your parenting. This is the model for how you show your faith when you're at work, when you're at school. I know some women might be thinking, wash his feet. Have you seen my husband's feet? There's no amount of cleaning that's going to clean those yellow toenails. He's got calluses like a pair of Goodyear tires. I can't do that. Excuse me. Well, you know, washing someone's feet can be nasty. It can feel like it's nasty. It can feel like it's beneath you. And maybe you're not called to literally wash someone's feet, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? That sometimes relationships can be messy. Sometimes you do stuff that seems beneath you. It may not literally mean washing someone's feet, but it might mean dressing a wound of a loved one. It can mean dressing the wound of a loved one. It might mean holding back someone's hair while they're throwing up. It might mean working late to help your coworker who has gotten himself in a fix. They've got to fix something. They've got to address this before they see the boss tomorrow and have that deadline. And it might mean that you stay and work late and help them. It may be beneath you. It may be grueling, thankless, and even nauseating. But if you're bearing someone's burden, sometimes it's going to feel a little heavy. In 1987, Donna Rice got wrapped up in what would become a front page scandal. She accompanied a married man onto a yacht called Monkey Business, of all things. And this married man happened to be a presidential candidate. So it got all over the news. It got all over the front page news. Now, Donna had been a Christian when she was young in youth group. And she had kind of slidden away from her faith. She had walked away from God to the point where here she finds her monkey business is on the front page news. Now, she was in a time in her life when her life was falling apart. And an old friend from youth group sent her a cassette tape with a note saying, Donna, I know you're hurting. I know you feel all alone, but I want you to know that God loves you and I love you. And Donna put that cassette tape in, and she listened to these old songs that she used to listen to. She used to sing along to when she was in youth group. And she falls to her knees in tears, and she prayed to God, God, help me to walk in your way instead of my way. That I'm tired of walking in my path. She had these friends that came around her, these good Christian friends. It was not popular to be seen with her at the time. That would have been reputation suicide. But these other Christians gathered around her. They helped support her in that moment that she was being restored by Jesus Christ. They came around her and helped to restore her. That is what we are called to do. Instead of kicking someone when they're down, we're supposed to ask the question, how can this situation be redeemed? In Galatians 6:2 it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now in the skit a moment ago, the bride and groom go into the marriage with a lot of baggage, each expecting that the other will bear their burdens. And yes, this is true in marriage, but this is true in any relationship, isn't it? That we all come with our own baggage, and we expect that others will help us to carry it. It's funny, we joked Wednesday night about this phrase that I've heard a lot of women say about their husbands. They say, there's this man that lives in my house. and you can complete it with other things. There's this man that lives in my house, and he lives his toenail clippings out. There's this man that lives in my house, and he hogs the TV, he stinks, etc. But this isn't just marriage, it's any relationship. It could even be your friend who's sitting on the pew beside you. That we are called to bear each other's burdens. One of the great things I love about this church is that we renew our covenant every year, just as we just did. As you look at that church covenant, so much of it involves bearing each other's burdens. As we act in love towards one another, as we bring others in, as we go out on mission, as we give of our time and our talents, as we give financially, and as we look at that last line, we seek to be more Christ-like. These all require us to take up our cross daily. Too often we act like the Christian life is like a gym that we have a membership to, but we never go. We sign up, but we don't have to go. Or we go, but we say, I showed up, I check off the box, but I don't have to get emotionally involved. Yes, I was physically there. Sometimes we can treat our faith like we have signed up to receive a beautiful cross sculpture that we put on the wall or we put on a shelf, but we don't put in our hearts. We say, yes, it's very beautiful. Sometimes I look at it and I remember that commitment I made that one single day, when really we're supposed to make that commitment daily. Jesus tells us to take up our cross day by day. Sometimes that cross is heavy, it's burdensome, it's not pretty, but we're called to pick it up every day. One of my favorite characters in the Gospels is Simon of Cyrene. Because this is the man who was called out of the crowd when Jesus was being crucified. When he was led down the road, the Roman soldiers call out and say, hey, you help him carry his cross. And the reason I love that story is, if we really think about it, it's not Simon helping to carry Jesus' cross. Jesus is carrying Simon's cross. And Simon carries it, but for a very short time. He didn't carry it all the way to that point. He doesn't carry it all the way to Calvary. Simon carries his cross for a very short time. And I feel like that represents us. Because we carry our cross for just a short time. We might say, my cross is so heavy, it's so burdensome. When really, Jesus is on the other side. And I like to think sometimes, what would it have been like to be Simon and carrying that cross, helping to carry that cross. And on this other side, you've got Jesus who has been beaten, and he's got the crown of thorns, and he's bloody, and he's gasping for breath, and he's stumbling down the path. And then to realize at a certain point, you're done helping him carry this, and he's going to take it all the way up to Calvary. I think about the suffering that Jesus went through for me and for you. And I say, you know what, sometimes it feels like I can't really carry my cross. But I'm only carrying a small portion of the weight, and for only a very small portion of the time. That's what a true leader does. Jesus shows us that. A true servant, this is how Jesus bore our burdens, by bearing our cross, by dying and raising from the dead. If you're visiting with us this morning, I want to tell you we're so grateful that you are visiting with us this morning. And please hear me while you're attending. It's wonderful and we're glad you're here, but I would invite you to go a step further for your sake. Not because we're trying to get numbers or anything like that, but for your sake, joining the church is such a wonderful thing in your own life. So I want everybody, like we said earlier during the church covenant, when God has gifted you of this wonderful church family, and you say, there is nothing in my life that is as wonderful as this church family, I want everybody to experience that. So for your own sake, if you're thinking about joining a church, say, I don't know, I'm thinking about it, what's the difference? What's the difference between visiting and joining? Why can't I just keep on visiting? And yes, you can keep visiting, and we love that, and we cherish that, and we'd love to have you. But for your sake, I would encourage you to join as well, and to officially become part of this family of faith. There's nothing else like it. There's no self-help book like this family of faith. There's nothing on TV. If you might watch, a great sermon on TV, and that's great, that's wonderful, or on YouTube nowadays, and that's great and that's wonderful, but that is not the same as having that connection with the church family. So I invite you to join the church family, to be part of this family. I'm still in contact with people that I have been connected to in church from years ago, who are in other parts of the world now, in other countries. And to have that connectivity with other people, to have people who gather around you. What are we supposed to do as the church? What did we just covenant to do with each other? We bear each other's burdens. You've been hearing it throughout the service. We bear each other's burdens. And don't you want other people to walk beside you? See, if we're bearing each other's burdens, then when I carry my cross, yes, Jesus is helping me carry that cross, but what else? If you're bearing my burdens, you're helping me carry that cross. If I'm bearing your burdens, I'm helping you carry your cross. If we're all helping each other daily, that cross, that weight, it's a little bit lighter. And don't you want to walk down the road with other people who are carrying their cross and say, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that has struggles. It's amazed me, sometimes people will say, no one knows what I'm going through. Oh, but no, there are other people in this church who know what you're going through. You say, oh, but I've got stuff in my past. You might be surprised to find out other people in the church have stuff in their past too. That none of us are perfect. That sometimes we have things in our past and say, well, you know what, I messed up. I made some bad decisions. And God brought me to where I am. I didn't bring me to where I am, but God brought me where I am. That He helped carry that cross. And He could do the same for you. So, this Covenant Sunday, I invite you to covenant, to renew, as we renewed our covenant, to covenant in church membership. If you don't know Jesus this morning at all, you say, I don't have a covenant with Jesus because I don't know Jesus. Don't walk away today without getting that relationship straight with God. There is nothing like that relationship with God who fills your heart. And I know I've used this metaphor so many times, but I love it. Of a picture of a little child who said, if Jesus is in your heart and Jesus is bigger than your heart, then Jesus in your heart shouldn't stick out. There is nothing like having that relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't know Him today, please, please, please don't leave without getting that straight. I'd love to talk to you. Whatever it is that God leads you to this morning, would you please come forward as we sing this final song.